Well, good morning. It is great to have you with us on this frosty morning. I think it's probably frosty no matter where you are. And you're very welcome to Enterprise Ireland's Evolve UK programme. So my name is Nuala McGovern. I'm going to be with you for the next hour and 3/4 approximately, which I hope you're going to enjoy what we have laid out for you in that time. Now, this event is called the New UK, Succeeding in a Changing Market. And of course, that brings up so many conversations and so many aspects. We have two fantastic panels that are coming up with a number of contributors that I think are going to help you as you make decisions about your businesses in the coming year. And I'm really sure it's going to be a stimulating discussion. Very much looking forward to speaking all who are on board. I do want to let you know, because it's a webinar, things are slightly different, of course, that there'll be a lot of directions for camera on and mic off and camera off. I guess that's the world that we're living in right now. So bear with me as I go through some of that. But it is a fairly packed schedule, as I mentioned. If you have questions that arise during the next little under 2 hours, do hold on to them. And at the end of this session, we'll then be able to address how to get those questions answered. I have a feeling probably a lot of areas that will come up. I'm going to ask our first contributor from Enterprise Ireland, Marina Donoghue, to put her camera on and her mic on. You're going to get used to that. Hey, Marina, great to have you with us. And Marina is Enterprise Ireland's Overseas Director for the UK and Northern Europe. And we'll start with setting out a little bit of what to expect today as well. Marina, welcome.
Good morning, Nuala, and on behalf of Enterprise Ireland, a very warm welcome to our new UK webinar. As Nuala mentioned, I'm based here in London, and firstly, a big shout out to the fabulous Enterprise Ireland team here in London and Manchester, led by our country manager, Deirdre McPartland, for making this webinar happen. We do have a full and interesting agenda ahead, and we'll be moving at a pace with 12 speakers to hear from. To open proceedings, we have Minister Robert Troy, followed by a panel of UK-Ireland relations with Ireland's ambassador to the UK, Adrian O'Neill, Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Liverpool, Steve Rotherham, and Enterprise Ireland's CEO, Julie Cinnamon. Following that, an important session on protecting margin through strategic pricing with Mark Billich of Simon & Kucher. We'll then hear from 5 CEOs of Enterprise Ireland clients, Dublin Aerospace, EI Electronics, EPS, Gifts Direct and Bray, on their past success and outlook for the years ahead. Sincere thanks to all our speakers for joining. To our guests, we hope their insights will inspire and encourage you to enter and scale in the UK. Thanks to a unique mixture of proximity, language, business practice, culture, and historic links, the UK is our biggest and closest export market, a market with a population of 66 million and 1 in 6 claim Irish ancestry. Our historic links run deep, and the connections and relationships across the Irish diaspora are hugely valuable to all of us. The UK is the 6th largest economy in the world, with a leadership position in services, life sciences, offshore wind, retail innovation and fintech, a nation with a serious commitment to climate action and digital transformation, an economic powerhouse and an important trading partner for Ireland. This partnership can continue to strengthen in the years ahead. While the last few years have been difficult for our clients with challenging market dynamics, Brexit uncertainty and then a global pandemic, their resilience and agility is to be commended. Exports have grown and commitment to the market has deepened. To clients today, you have taken the risks, deployed capital and resource, and congratulations on well-deserved success in the UK. Recent months have been particularly problematic for businesses in the UK and Ireland. Our exporters on both sides have struggled with issues around customs, transport and logistics. Today, we will not dwell on these transient challenges and instead look to the future. Further details on Enterprise Ireland's support with these short-term challenges will be shared after this webinar. So now that the transition period is concluded, vaccine rollout is at a pace, and with the easing of restrictions on the horizon, there's plenty to be optimistic about. Enterprise Ireland engages with clients across all key sectors throughout the UK, and we're here to help. We're delighted to be a part of Team Ireland in the UK, and I'd like to recognise the strong working relationship with colleagues in Bord Bia, Tourism Ireland and IDA Ireland, and also the strong collaboration with the Embassy of Ireland and consulates in Edinburgh and Cardiff. Ambassador O'Neill is a great friend of Enterprise Ireland and a supporter of Irish industry, and delighted he can join us. We're also very grateful to continued engagement with other stakeholders, including the British Irish Chamber of Commerce, our partners in Liverpool and Manchester, and colleagues at DIT and the UK Embassy in Ireland. I'm delighted that many of our stakeholders have joined us today in Ireland and in the UK, and a particular warm welcome to Ambassador Paul Johnson in Dublin. It is now my great privilege to introduce Minister Robert Troy. He is Minister of State with responsibility for trade promotion, digital and company regulation at the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment. Minister Troy, I am delighted that you can be with us virtually today, and I look forward to meeting with you in person in the UK soon. Can I ask you now to please address our guests? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. Ambassadors, Mayor Burnham, Mayor Rotherham, Julie Cinnamon and guests, I'm delighted to have been invited to address and open your event this morning. The UK has always been and remains Ireland's largest single trading partner. In 2019, Enterprise Ireland clients' exports to the UK were the highest ever and represented 31% of Irish exports. This is a testament to the resilience of Irish companies through uncertain times. Obviously, proximity and shared approach and taste means that the UK remains the largest market for sectors such as construction, packaging or consumer products. On the 1st of January this year, the EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement came into effect, changing the trading relationship between Ireland and the UK. This agreement sets out new parameters and provides the certainty businesses need. We can expect that the implications of this will lead to changes in how businesses and sectors operate in the UK in the months and years ahead. As we learned last year, Brexit is not the only driver for change for businesses. Unfortunately, due to COVID, many businesses had to change how they operate and change very quickly. It's also important to look at other factors at play too, including issues like climate change and digital transformation, both driving change but also driving opportunities. Today, I'm delighted to launch Enterprise Ireland's Evolve UK campaign. This comprehensive programme will deliver critical insights to Irish companies on the evolving UK markets through reports, webinars, podcasts and virtual events. At a sector level, Evolve UK provides valuable intelligence and guidance for Irish companies to navigate market changes and to seize opportunities. Government departments and agencies are continuing to work with businesses and colleagues in the UK, and Enterprise Ireland, through its 2 offices in London and Manchester, and a team of market advisors with deep industry knowledge, is delivering expert advice and information for Irish companies to adapt, grow and scale in the UK. Today, we're also launching the Evolve Strategic Planning Grant to support Irish companies to develop a strategic response to the challenges and opportunities which has arisen as a result of changes to the changing environment in the UK since the 1st of January. Before I conclude, I want to particularly extend a very warm welcome to Mayor Burnham and Mayor Rotherham, and thank them for their interest in Ireland and for taking time out this morning to share with us how their own cities and regions are changing and evolving. There are already very strong links between Ireland and their regions, and these are further strengthened through the opening of Enterprise Ireland's office in Manchester in 2019 and the new consulate for the northwest of England later this year. I'd also like to thank Ambassador O'Neill and all the panelists for agreeing to share their insights and stories this morning. Finally, I want to congratulate the Irish companies who have joined us today, congratulate them for their resilience and their success through a very trading difficult year last year, and I wish them every success in entering a new and growing environment in the UK in the months and years ahead.
Thank you so much, Minister Troy, and also to Marina Donoghue, giving us that overview of some of the opportunities, really, of what you will be able to avail of. So I will get Minister Troy, you can turn your camera off. Thank you so much. And let me introduce our first panel. So we have a number of people that are joining us. I will ask the following to pop their cameras and also microphones on. That is Julie Cinnamon, CEO of Enterprise Ireland. Also, the Irish Ambassador to the UK, Adrian O'Neill, Metro Mayor of Liverpool City Region, Steve Rotherham, and also Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham. Wonderful, so great to have all of you with us in this new format. I do hope that we'll all meet in person at some point as well. But let me beginning to see some of the issues that have been outlined there by Marina and also by Minister Troy. And let me start with you, Ambassador. How would you describe, you're a man with relationships, that is your job. How would you describe the Ireland-UK relationship now, given particularly such a challenging year that people are coming through?
Well, good morning, Nuala. Morning, Mayors. Morning, Julie. Yeah, what I would say about it is that maybe after a period of a couple of years of turbulence following the Brexit negotiations, I think the fundamentals in the relationship remain very strong. And now that those Brexit negotiations are over, I think there's a really good opportunity now to reset the relationship in a very positive way. Now, undoubtedly, I mean, Brexit will bring change, as Marina was outlining, and will require adaptation. But I mean, nonetheless, I think, you know, the fundamentals aren't going to alter all that much. I mean, our geography isn't going to change. The movement of people to and fro that's gone on for centuries isn't going to change. And I think neither is substantially our trading relationship, because I think proximity is a big factor, as a big driver in terms of trade, particularly for SMEs. I mean, if you think about, a number of key facts, I think illustrate that. You know, every week we have, we've traded the value of over 1 billion sterling takes place between Ireland and GB. We still export over 1/3 of all our food and drink exports still come to Great Britain. And in the fantastic NHS, you have over 14,000 Irish citizens are working in the NHS, I think, which is the third most numerous non-British cohort in the NHS. So I think, fundamentally, I think we have a close, very neighbourly relationship. And I think post-Brexit, there is great potential for broadening and deepening that in the future.
I think those links, every time I read about them, you kind of realise how deep they are. I was watching how the Irish shaped Britain, and I think some of those figures kind of playing into it as well. Well, let me turn to the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, and Metro Mayor of Liverpool City Region, Steve Rotherham. Fabulous to have both of you with us. I'm not going to get into football just yet. Let me begin with you, Andy Burnham. I think this concept of devolution, the powers that you have, will be really important for the people who are watching today to understand. So if you could just explain it briefly, and then I'll come to you, Steve, because I know it's slightly different then for Liverpool. Andy.
Thanks, Nuala. Morning, Ambassador, Julie, as well. It's very much, I think, as the Ambassador said, Steve and I see things as, we don't want things to be disrupted. The long standing relationship between the northwest of England and Ireland is something we both value dearly, and we want to see it, if anything, improve in the coming years. If Britain is to succeed as a result of Brexit, it depends upon city regions like ours, Liverpool and Greater Manchester, in many ways punching their weight internationally. I think we're punching below our weight at the moment, because we've lived in a London-centric country. There's no getting away from it. And there is a desire, if things are going to change in the next few years, there is a desire from our residents for more power to be based in the English regions, to build more for ourselves, do more for ourselves. and strike out on that world stage more for ourselves. So Steve and I are planning a joint trade mission. I think it's the first ever by 2 UK mayors to Ireland in September, with the support of Ambassador O'Neill and his team. But for that reason, really, we want to build our own presence on the international stage. I think we have a different relationship with Ireland, perhaps, than other parts of the UK, because, as you say, the ties are so strong, the bonds are so deep. I mean, large parts of the Northwest were built by many people from Ireland, including my own ancestors. So, this is where we see the UK going in this period now, becoming a more devolved entity where the English regions have more power to choose their own destiny, build their own economy, deepen their own important relationships. And rather than doing that individually, in this case, Steve and I were very clear we wanted to do it jointly with colleagues in Ireland. So we're really grateful to Enterprise Ireland for all of their support. Obviously, we're pleased that the new Consulate General is coming to the Northwest soon. All of this, we think, are the foundations for strengthening the relationship between our two great city regions, the Northwest and Ireland, in the years ahead.
So Northern Powerhouse, that was a term coined, Steve Rotherham, about 6 years ago. Do you think it's still apt? And what do you think companies today that are on this webinar should be thinking about when they look at Liverpool? Where might there be opportunities that they could exploit?
First of all, on the Northern Powerhouse stuff, it was an artificial construct by the then Chancellor, George Osborne, and it was to try to, I suppose, respond to the problems that we've got in the UK, which is that we are the most politically centralised democracy in the OECD, and yet we have the most unbalanced economy in the whole of Europe, and something needs to happen on that. So devolution, as Andy's just said, is a way in which we can start to address the inequalities of the sort of economic issues that we have in our country. And for me, it's a great opportunity for us as a city region to come together, 1.6 million people, 6 local authority areas, all working and pulling in the same direction. So we have slightly different responsibilities than Andy, and all of the different areas across England, believe it or not, have different devolution agreements depending on the negotiations that they had with central government. But I have control over local transport, over economic development, spatial planning, skills, culture, business support, for example. But we also have the soft powers, Nuala, of convening and pulling together groups of public and private sector interests to steer the conversations in the right direction, and that then opens up the possibility, doesn't it, of what we need to do across the water between our great city, which is, in all honesty, no great stranger to welcoming people from Ireland. Indeed, I think at the very beginning, Marina said 1 in 6 people claim to have Irish ancestry in the UK. Might be a little bit higher in Liverpool, in all honesty. But certainly there are opportunities, I think, to get back to the crux of this. The fundamental issue is what can we do more, and the trade delegation that both myself and Andy working with the ambassador and the trade minister, that's really where we can take things. And whilst we're doing okay, it's £350 million worth of trade between the Liverpool City region and Ireland at the moment. I don't think we've maximised all of the potential. So that's really where we can start to work with the people who are listening in on this webinar and starting to look to see whether we can capitalise on some of those great relationships that we've had.
And I'll get into some of the areas as well, but I want to turn to Enterprise Ireland CEO Julie Cinnamon. Where does the UK fit in with Enterprise Ireland's strategy, particularly perhaps as companies are looking at potential ways of diversification, for example?
Okay, and good morning, Nuala and Ambassador and both mayors, and delighted to be here. Well, first of all, the UK, as Marina has said earlier, it is a massive market, 66 million people. It's on our doorstep. It is the #1 market for Irish exports from Irish companies. 31% of our exports go into the UK. So and maybe it's because I come from a large family that I always grew up with a mentality, what I have, I hold. And certainly, you know, when we talk about diversification, we're not talking about walking away from the UK market. It is a massively important market for Ireland. There are intrinsic links that both mayors and the ambassador have talked about. Everybody, I don't know anybody in Ireland who doesn't have family in the UK. So there are really close links. It has always been treated like an extension of the Irish market for Irish companies. It's a market where companies go into as a first market in many cases. They've grown scale as a result of the opportunities in the UK market, and we would see that continuing. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to see balance in markets. So when we talk about diversification, it is about building on the strength that we have in the UK and continuing that. And, you know, Steve's talked about the Northern Powerhouse. And in fact, in 2019, we opened an office in Manchester, and we would see that there has been a greater focus in the southeast of the UK traditionally, and we believe there are strong opportunities in the north of England and in Scotland, and that we should be working with Irish companies to avail of those opportunities. So the UK is a massively valuable market from an Irish perspective. It's not exactly the same as Ireland, but at the same time, it is the closest in terms of culture, business practices, etc. There's masses of opportunity there. Companies have, even since 2016 with Brexit, we have continued to grow our exports into the UK every year. And in preparation for today's seminar, when we went out to companies and talked about how they perceive the UK market, we talked to 427 companies, and 89% of those said that they saw future opportunities in the UK, and over 80% of them said that their strategy was to grow their exports into the UK market. So it is a market that has always been close to Ireland, and as the ambassadors and mayors have both talked about, there is a two-way street here. There is traffic travelling. The UK sees Ireland as a really important market, and we're really keen to continue to develop those relationships in both directions.
Thanks very much, Julie. You know, just as you're talking there and kind of drilling down a little bit, Mayor Burnham and Mayor Rotherham, I would notice that the net zero carbon commitment, so there's been a lot of chatter about this really in the UK and across Europe, but Manchester has a commitment for 2038, Liverpool, I believe, 2040. That doesn't seem that far away, but I'm wondering, Mayor Burnham, how would you see perhaps opportunities for Irish companies, for example, to work with you with that goal in mind?
I think we're going to see a green recovery from the pandemic. I think in 100 years' time, historians will look back at 2020 and recognise that that was the moment when there was real acceleration towards a green economy and a zero carbon society. Why? Because all around the world, governments are going to have to get serious about job creation, quality job creation coming out of the pandemic, such as the scale of the damage we've all sustained to our economies, and it's the obvious place to look. So for Steve and I, if you take the idea, well, not the idea, the reality, sorry, Nuala, that we're going to have to retrofit every single property in Greater Manchester and the Liverpool City region. So for our combined almost 5 million residents, we're going to have to change their homes and all of the business premises in Greater Manchester. What opens up there is an opportunity for thousands of good quality jobs. And we've not been in the position in the northwest of England in our lifetimes, Steve and I. We very much our politics is forged by growing up here in the 1980s. We've not been in a position to say to the younger generation at any time in the last 20 or 30 years that if they train in a particular skill set, in this case retrofitting or green construction, that they can have a good quality job for life. That has not been something we've been able to say, but this gives us the opportunity to say that. So it just is obvious to me that we're going to see a huge acceleration of the green economy. You know, we do have plans for 2038, Steve, 2040, but we're becoming more and more aligned. So we're meeting with our energy suppliers over recent months, Cadent in the gas world, Electricity Northwest, and Steve's electricity supplier, to get an alignment from them to the plan that we've got for a zero carbon energy supply. So you can start to see, can't you, how this takes shape. And I would say there are massive opportunities for Irish companies, given the presence that Irish companies have within construction within the Northwest. It's Steve and my job to get the skills system behind it to be able to bring through those opportunities for young people. And we've both got a BDI on the COP in Glasgow later this year, because we want the Northwest to be the shining star of that COP in Glasgow with the strength of the plans that we're developing. I'll let Steve talk about tidal energy and hydrogen, which is a very big theme building out of the Liverpool City region. But you know, we believe the more that we do this together and build the critical mass together, the more we'll make our region interesting to the big players in Ireland and further afield. So yeah, I'm going to make that firm prediction, Nuala. You know, a green recovery from COVID here and around the world. But also, I think it's linked to the digital economy as well. The two almost go hand in hand to me. Decarbonisation, digitalisation. Greater Manchester is recently named the fastest growing digital and tech hub in Europe, and with further potential for growth. So we kind of feel the conditions are there, and we just need the government to back us, the UK government to back us coming out of this, because you know, we're ready to go.
That is it. And Mayor Rotherham, you'll get the lovely question of, are you convinced that this will be funded, and anything else you want to add about recovery and when it comes to Irish companies helping make that happen?
The thing is, Nuala, we're not just waiting for national governments to do this. We're doing it ourselves. We're making huge investments in our housing stock. As Andy just said, about a third of our emissions and energy loss is through poor housing stock, you know, badly insulated homes built in the sort of Victorian age, and we need to do much more, and we are doing much more to try to tackle that one, because that also tackles energy poverty, people who are having to pay more per unit for their electricity and their gas, but of course that being lost through walls and windows and through poorly insulated lofts. So we'll do something ourselves, but also transport infrastructure is huge for us, and you know, myself and Andy are trying to fight to get connectivity right the way across from the west to Hull, so west to east connectivity as well as north south, and that'll be important to us. But again, instead of waiting for national governments, we're doing things ourselves. So we're investing in a hydrogen fleet of buses, and that means that hydrogen energy becomes hugely important to us, and so we're putting it into domestic gas supplies, but also we've got a project where we're going to decarbonise the energy intensive industries. So there's lots and lots of things working with our partners, our universities, for instance, that we'll be doing, and that will generate opportunities for business participation and partnerships. The North, myself, Andy, and possibly even creeping into North Wales, we're going to have a presence at COP26 in November, and that will be about how changing energy production, such as tidal energy, which is something that we're developing, but the carbon capture and storage stuff in the Irish Sea, all of that will come together to make us able to fulfill that obligation and pledge that we're both made to be carbon neutral, net zero carbon by 2040, in my case, and a couple of years earlier than Andy's.
Really interesting, and I'm sure the people that are watching as well, they can begin to see how some of those tie together as well. Really interesting when you take a look at the two cities, whether it's the Knowledge Quarter or taking a look also at Oxford Avenue. There are fascinating things taking place, and I think we're beginning to see where the links are. Julie, let me turn back to you. You've heard both of our mayors speaking there. And I'm just wondering at this point, because I think there has been some trepidation, be it COVID or be it Brexit, do you think companies need to work harder now to try and forge those relationships or maintain those relationships?
Well, firstly, we have always been saying to companies that when you're dealing with clients, you want to actually look and feel as close to the customer as possible. And we've always encouraged companies to have a local presence in the marketplace. One of the things that with COVID and the lack of ease of travel, it has become more evident than ever that people actually need to be close to the market. And in fact, I think because traditionally we were so close to the UK market and it was so easy that people actually didn't think they needed a presence. So I certainly believe that now more than ever, and because of all of the issues that have gone on over the last few years, it's really important for companies to build those relationships. We would be encouraging companies who don't have a presence in the market to put a presence into the market. I mean, why have we opened an office in Manchester? We're actually doing ourselves what we're asking companies to do, to be closer to our clients in the market and to have a physical presence there. And I think that's something that is really key. We've seen the correlation between companies with a presence on the ground and being close to customers and their success in terms of their export growth. So I believe it's really important to build those relationships. We've also seen that through the last 9 months with COVID, companies that have kept a really strong relationship with companies virtually have been really successful and are in good standing in terms of doing business going forward. So I think building those relationships and maintaining them is absolutely critical.
Yeah, I find it kind of fascinating as well, even talking about COP there, kind of how we communicate with one another. Like, we're doing it here, obviously, and we have all these people joining in with us as well. And I think we're beginning to get into the flow, and maybe we need to, because it does look like it will continue to kind of maintain those relationships. Yeah. A lot of them will be virtual, but digital.
We do, but there is always a place for physical presence as well. So, yes. And I think we're all looking forward to getting back into the physical meeting world. It's not an either or, but we have been very successful, and companies throughout Ireland have been fantastic at how they've moved into that virtual world and built relationships around the world and succeeded in doing business despite the lack of travel. But there's still a place for that physical contact.
Yeah, I wonder what will happen with Glasgow. Of course, we cannot predict that at the moment when it comes to that COP. But let me turn back to you, Ambassador O'Neill. You've heard the enthusiasm coming from the Northwest, I think, very strongly there. Is there a commitment on the Irish side to make it work? Could you guarantee that?
Absolutely, Nuala. I mean, I think Minister Troy will be very aware of the fact that our Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, has been very clear in his determination that, as I say, in a post-Brexit context, to reinvigorate and refresh the relationship between Ireland and the UK in every way that we can. And this is something which himself and the Prime Minister discussed when they, at their first, unfortunately, their first only meeting in person, when they met last August in Northern Ireland. They have returned to the subject in telephone conversations since. There's a lot of work going on in London and Dublin at officials looking at what the policy content of such a kind of a refresh in the relationship would look like, the areas of cooperation that hold considerable potential. You can own kind of climate change is an obvious one, the whole broad area of connectivity, and as well as looking at the whole question of kind of policy areas. The two governments were also working together, looking very much at as well how we ensure that the intergovernmental structures are strong enough to sustain that relationship. In the past, our ministers and officials used to meet very frequently in Brussels. We knew each other very well. There were lots of conversations that would take place there around the bilateral relationship. Obviously, we won't be meeting there in the future, so we've got to find alternative structures of making sure that the intergovernmental relationship is strong and can support very close cooperation. And just one other point I'd make, Nuala, is, of course, looking to the future as well. We're very conscious that this is not, the British-Irish relationship is not a bipolar relationship just between London and Dublin. It's increasingly a multipolar relationship. We need to have discrete relationships with Scotland, with Wales, with the regions in England, particularly the very vibrant north of England. And we can see from, evident from the two mayors this morning, all the energy that there is in that part of the country. And, the north of England, combined population, 15 million people in the three regions in the north of England. Very strong Irish communities, not just in Liverpool and Manchester, but places like Leeds and Newcastle as well. And that's why, we're really looking forward to establishing our consulate in the north of England. We'll have someone on the ground in the summer to work alongside our great colleagues in Enterprise Ireland. So I think there's some exciting days ahead for the British-Irish relationship.
Thanks very much, Ambassador. I just want to turn briefly, Mayors, to the Green Paper. It's published by the UK. It's called Transforming Public Procurement. So there's a commitment to creating a new business, job skills all across the UK. Some Irish companies or Irish exporters may be concerned that there might be a move towards buy British and hamper in some way their possible opportunities. Mayor Rotherham, what would you respond to
that? Well, look, just the same as that, I'd encourage anybody to buy local wherever possible, including people in Ireland. That's the reality of the world that we face. We want to reduce our carbon footprint, but that doesn't stop people then from trading. What it does is hopefully opens up new markets. And that's what we're looking at in the Liverpool City region. We don't just want the bit that we've got currently, we want to expand. And we've invested in something, two projects, one called The Hill and the other the Knowledge Quarter, which you spoke about, which is about exactly the sort of things that the best performing areas in the world. So, these are global companies that we're competing against. And we want to do more in our city region, but we want to encourage partners to come in with us. So, for instance, we're working closely with our Liverpool Health partners and the NHS Innovation Agency to help develop business products for the NHS. And those investments into life sciences and health innovation will mean that we'll start to expand what is that we do, and we will very much welcome partnership approaches to try to see whether we can, advance and forge into the areas of digital health, for instance, of stuff around the development of vaccines. We have vaccine production centres in our area, and we're looking at getting a priority 4 hub in the Liverpool City region as well. And this means that there'll be plenty of opportunities for us to start to work, not just in the UK, but across the water as well.
Yeah, I should also say I'd mentioned Oxford Avenue's Oxford Road corridor in Manchester, which is their innovation district. And if some of the people watching haven't checked that out, it's well worth it, along with the Knowledge Quarter, as you described. Our time is going in very quickly. We're nearly up at our half an hour. So I have a very important question to ask the mayors. There has always been healthy competition between your two cities, whether it is music or whether it is football. As we go forward, the people on this call need to know, is it working together or every mayor for himself?
No, it's certainly working together, to be honest. And I'm conflicted a little, as I have to admit. I am the mayor of Greater Manchester, but I do support Everton, which is tricky sometimes with my own voters. But we all have a common wish to see Liverpool lose every single match they play, so that's kind of helps me connect with my residents. But no, it's I think the Northwest it's a place actually where we are bound up together. The rivalry, absolutely, and people celebrate it in many ways, in the ways you've said, Nuala. But actually, to be honest, we're all a bit. I was born in Liverpool, but my dad got his job moved to Manchester, so I grew up more in that side of the Northwest. So we thrive on the rivalry, and I keep saying we'd like to bring hope to bring some representatives from our 4 great clubs to Ireland later this year. I'm celebrating the great Seamus Coleman this morning for his contribution on the pitch last night. And we have got a thriving music sector, and I think both of our hearts sank when we saw that musicians wouldn't be given visa-free access to the EU. And it just allows me to say something that pick up on something the ambassador said. You know, for everyone on the call, don't think that what you hear coming out of London and the government represents how Steve and I see Ireland. I think a lot of our residents sometimes will cringe at some of the things they hear or things that are said about Ireland or done in the Irish context. We have a different relationship with you, and we want to celebrate that relationship with you, and you know, and explore those things that bind us around music and football. So obviously there's an element of rivalry, of course there is, and you know, both of us sometimes are pitching for investment that we both want to see, but actually that's about 10-20%. It's 80% of working together that we put forward first. And I think in terms of the question you asked, Steve, I honestly don't believe, Nuala, that Guinness sales are under any immediate threat in the northwest of England. I think I can assure you about that on this call this morning. We want to promote our own businesses, as Steve said, but if we become protectionist in this period, Britain's doomed, as far as I'm concerned. You know, our residents want to have the best of British, but also the best of Europe and the best of Ireland, and absolutely that does not change. And the reason we're making such a kind of early commitment to come and visit you is to kind of show that, because our residents will want that, and we just look forward to building this relationship with the ambassador, Julie and her colleagues, and and with everybody on this call.
I think the
Nuala,
fact
can I just come in on that, Nuala, just for 1 second, that point about people buying locally, because it is a really important, and it's a trend that we see across the world, and it's the reason why innovation is so massively important. If you're going to move towards a zero carbon economy, you actually need the best technology in the world to help you with that. And therefore, if Irish companies are going to succeed globally, they only succeed if they're bringing a better solution to your problem than any solution you can get locally. And that, to me, is absolutely critical. So companies that are succeeding from Ireland, they've invested heavily in innovation, and that's why they've got really strong, innovative new solutions to products which can help everybody. And that's why trade really works in both directions, that it is about getting the best solution. So it's just that there is a growing tendency, but at the same time, Irish companies are continuing to grow their exports, and that's because of the commitment and investment in innovation to make sure they're leading edge products. Why would anybody in Australia buy from Ireland? It has to be something which is better than they can get at the other side of the world. So innovation is really key to trade flowing in both directions.
Thank you, Julie. Back to you, Mayor Rotherham.
Yeah, can I just sort of chip in with where Andy left off? And look, friendly rivalry is brilliant. It's at times overspilt into sort of tribalism, and we don't want that. We want the friendly rivalry. And so we've looked, as Andy said, where there's complementarity between our area and Greater Manchester. So, for instance, Greater Manchester has got an airport, an international airport, and we've got a seaport. You know, Manchester's got shopping centres. We've got culture. There's things that we've got that they haven't got. Quite dig there.
This is deteriorating already.
Maybe I should have stopped it 2 minutes ago. Continue.
We're the most successful music city in the country, and got more #1s than anywhere else in the world per capita. We are the most successful football team and football city in the country still, although the Premier League might be disappearing across the patch for a while. But what we both have, it takes about an hour between where Andy in Manchester is and where I am. It takes about 25 minutes from John Lennon Airport to Dublin. And that's what we need to be thinking of. Yeah. You know, if that water wasn't there, literally it's just across the way for us in Ireland. And we need to break down some of those watery barriers, if you like, and look at it as opportunities to forge those stronger links. Historically, it's always been the way. I'm certain that in the future we can even strengthen that.
have to say it's been fascinating. I love both the cities, Liverpool and Manchester. I mean, and I'm just going for fun, not for business. I'm sure a wonderful place as well to forge those links. So let me thank so much. We have Julie Cinnamon, a CEO of Enterprise Ireland, who's been with us, our Irish ambassador to the UK, Adrian O'Neill, and also our Metro Mayor of Liverpool City Region, Steve Rotherham, and Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham. Thank you all so much. Loads of food for thought there. And I just want to remind the people that are taking part in this webinar, maybe some issues came up, keep them, make a note of them, and at the end of this webinar, we'll be able to talk about how we'll be able to address those questions. So you're free, all of you, to turn off your cameras and to turn off your microphones. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nuala.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Let us move on as we continue with this webinar. Lots to think about there, isn't there, as we go through the various aspects of the Northwest, the powerhouse of exactly, maybe there was something there that jumped out at you that you would be interested in exploring a little bit further. Right, I want to get another two people to turn on their cameras and to turn on their microphones, and that is Deirdre McPartlin, who is the manager for the UK for Enterprise Ireland. Hello, Deirdre, good to have you back on with us. Also, we have Mark Billich, who is also going to be speaking with Deirdre. Hello, Mark. Good to have you with us. Mark is the very good CEO of Simon Kuchner and Partners, and is going to speak with Deirdre now for the next few minutes about protecting margins and driving growth. So I'm going to knock off my microphone and my camera and leave you.
Great. Thank you, Nuala, for the introduction. And Mark, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Really delighted that you could join us. Simon Kuchner and Partners are the global leaders in top-line growth strategy. And we really thought that now was the time for our clients and companies to talk about profit under pressure. So I'm sure the topic will be of real interest to business owners and company managers who are in our audience. But to start with, Mark, Simon Kuchner and Partners probably isn't so well known in Ireland yet. Maybe you can give us some background on the company and explain how you work with and help and advise businesses.
Yeah, sure. And so firstly, Deirdre, thank you for inviting me and inviting us to join this fantastic event. And yeah, we're not so well known yet. I hope we get to change the yet a little bit. And today's a bit about that. So yeah, so Simon Kuchner, our story is actually quite a simple, interesting one, I think, which is we have a real focus, which is we are, as you mentioned, the world's #1 pricing and top-line growth consultancy, actually. And we are ourselves 35 years old. We're actually founded in Germany, and you kind of pick that up from the name, Simon Kucher, if you are more Germanic than I am. And actually, it was we were founded by out of university by Professor Hermann Simon, who is the Simon of the Simon Kucher, and his 2 doctoral students. And their big insight at the time was to apply science to pricing problems. And actually what they'd realized was all through, most management science was about taking cost out and reorganizing things. Very few people were thinking about the science of pricing. And so we've now grown to, a much bigger company, 1,500 people in 41 offices. But I think that German heritage still runs very deep. And actually the one interesting thing about the German economy, I know we've talked so far a lot about the Irish and UK economy, but just to change gears for 1 second, a lot of that German economy and our heritage is built out of real export nation. Germany, the #1 exporter per capita, also a huge group of mid-sized businesses that really power the German economy. They call that the Mittelstand, this middle layer of very focused high export businesses. And actually our founder, Herman, coined this term, the hidden champions, something we've talked a lot about and a big part of our consulting thesis. These businesses that are the #1 in their industry around the world, you probably haven't heard them necessarily, their brand names, they're not the big marketeers. They are high quality products, they export, highly innovative. And that was a big part of our consulting, working with successful mid-sized businesses out of Germany. And now we've taken that around the world, and we continue to work with SMEs, startups all around the world, as well as some very big players and well-known brands. Many unicorns from the West Coast, mid-market players in the UK and around. So a real mixed bag, but always on the same topic, making more out of the top line of the business and focused on pricing.
Great. Thanks for that introduction, Mark. And it kind of leads me, though, to a key question. Why do many companies give a real focus to their cost management, but not to their pricing management? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm always asked it, and I always boil it down to there's two main reasons. Of course, there's myriad smaller reasons, but the big reasons are and the first one is that for some reason, people think of pricing as some kind of art rather than a science. And I think that often comes from almost a first generation of management, from founders, from owners, where the first price of the product was something they thought about, they said, they believe they read the market, and actually they think that that somehow is a gut feeling thing, and that pricing can be done sort of on a whim and on emotion. And of course it's not, it's a super scientific thing. So this feeling that it's art, not science, is one problem. And the second one is very simple, it's fear. That people are very worried about changing prices. I think most business owners and managers would be far more comfortable asking a supplier to cut the cost by 10% than asking a customer to pay 10% more. And between those two things, it means there's a huge lack of focus on this area. But actually, the economics of working on pricing are just so amazing and so much more powerful than working on the cost side. I don't want to get super technical, but if we could imagine, Deirdre, a business with a 15% profit margin, make it very simple. Of course, everything we do on pricing goes straight down to the bottom line. So if we put a 5% price increase in a business with a 15% margin, we take the margin from 15 to 20, we would increase margin by 33%. So 5% price, 33% margin expansion. And if you flip that round, that same 5% price increase, you could actually afford to lose 25% of all your volume and still be back to where you were. And of course, that never happens. Nobody loses 25% of volume for 5% price increase. So it's a really powerful profit driver, but for some reason, there's a lot of fear and mystery around it. And funny, because I know Enterprise Ireland have done a lot of work with your client base and the people on this call about cost transformation programs and about Lean and Six Sigma and taking cost out. And it's always a bit of a mystery as why there isn't a similar number of programs on pricing and commercial transformation, making the top line grow. And I think that's a skill and it's a capability that businesses need to learn. And I think it's also a mindset shift so many great businesses, I'm sure there's so many great Irish businesses on this call that we know that they build beautiful products. They pour huge energy into this creation of value. But when it comes to the extraction of the value back, charging the right price, they leave that to some salespeople or people with Excel spreadsheets. And the same company that scrutinizes their cost base, they find the euros and the cents here, the 0.5% deviation, will very happily let a salesperson discount by 20 or 30% and not even have a discussion about it. And that's a real destroyer of value. So price is the biggest profit lever, and there's no excuse not to have a plan for that. And I think it's just a mindset shift that we need businesses to think about. That is not just about cost management.
And just you mentioned, maybe letting salespeople look at the or discount. But what I hear a lot is that, from business owners as well, saying it's a matter of confidence and it's a matter of skill as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And this skill and this confidence. So confidence comes from preparation. Confidence comes from having a system. If you don't have a system, confidence evaporates very fast. And confidence can also be trained, and pricing can be trained. So we do a lot of work with pricing and coaching sales teams and management teams. But more importantly, you get the real confidence by having a system, by also having a bit of data and validation, by looking at the numbers and seeing, hey, actually, if we do this, this will work. And that's a big part of the work we do. So yes, it's a bit of maths, it's a bit of economics, but more than anything, it's about human behaviors and changing some preconditions, I think, that people are very, very scared and worried about even having these conversations with customers.
I can see why a lot of your methodology came from working with engineering companies in Germany and the heritage. Just moving maybe more to today and the current challenges that we're facing. So Brexit and COVID, two major shifts. Do you see them as either opportunities or risks for companies?
Well, I mean, I would probably follow the sentiment of the group that just spoke, and I think we all see more opportunity than risk. Of course, there is risk, but I think the risk can be managed, and I think that's probably where you start. You start with the the basic risk management. And the obvious one from a pricing perspective actually starts from a cost perspective, which is, yeah, supply chain issues, cost of doing business will go up. Obviously, we talked a lot about on that panel just now about sustainability and the investment in green technology. There is cost coming into the supply chain. And if companies don't have a pricing response for that, then they have a margin issue. So I think that's the first thing. We need to develop the skill that you talked about and the confidence to discuss price increases with our customers. That is a process, it's a system. As I said, you can learn that. So I would get that in place first, that we make sure that this cost that will come through the supply chain, we have a pricing response for that. And we've got to build ourselves a system and a process for passing cost increases on. And then we've sort of stabilized the P&L. And then I think it's much more exciting to focus on the opportunities, the new markets that were already discussed. I hate the phrase the new normal, but it's a good phrase because it really is true. There's a lot of new things we're going to have to contend with, new attitudes of customers. I think a real openness of customers and buyers to new things. And the word innovation was used a lot in the last 30 minutes. I have to agree with that. I think the time now is really ripe for innovation. But I also think it's not just innovation from a kind of a product perspective. Obviously, a lot was talked about with digital, but it's also on the commercial side. So it's all very easy to talk about digital sales and digital sales channels, but we have to make money out of those digital sales channels. Just selling something over the internet doesn't mean you make money out of it. So we need to think very hard about that. A lot was talked about with kind of remote work, and we should think about the impact of that on our sales model. Maybe we don't have to get on a plane and fly everywhere. Well, actually, if we can master some dimension of selling like this, then actually we should make that more systematic in our sales model and actually reduce the overall cost of sales. I think there's a lot of work to do on price models, subscriptions and recurring revenues, etc. But I think what is important is that this innovation will undoubtedly happen, but we also need, there's another word there, monetization, which is investing in innovations that make money. Simply innovating for innovation's sake, it won't get us there. We need to invest in innovation that have a commercial angle to them that we know can make money out of that innovation. And actually, a book we wrote probably 5 or so years ago now called Monetizing Innovation, for the 2 words. I think that's more relevant than ever. And actually, we had this tagline at the time, design the product around the price. I would say that's good reading for most people right now, because I see the innovation wave coming, but I'm very worried that these innovations will cost a lot, but not generate a lot of value on the other hand.
Fascinating. And as you say, probably a mindset shift, so lots of food for thought so far. But given those big shifts that you've described, what advice would you have to help companies actually ensure, because what you're talking about is sustainability as well of business models, isn't it? So what advice can you give around that?
No, you're absolutely right, Deirdre, this is about long-term sustainability of the business model. And I think, this crisis has been very interesting, I think, for many business leaders. I think it's been a big wake-up call. And I think many business leaders and owners have realized actually how hopelessly transactional their business models are, that as soon as the demand goes away, the revenue falls, and there's very little you can do about that. And so I think this has been a wake-up call on what I would describe as the quality of our revenue, not just the revenue we have, but the quality of the underlying earnings. And I would say every business right now, you should have 1 or 2 people thinking very hard about recurring revenue and subscriptions. And I think there's this misnomer that this is a Netflix thing, it's a B2C thing. It's absolutely not the case. This is a B2B thing. This is a services thing. It's our single biggest project type right now. It's helping B2B firms develop more recurring price models and developing more recurring revenue in their revenue base. So that one I would definitely put on the list. The other one is, I think the wake-up call is how tolerant we've been for so long about losing money. And parts of our product portfolio that simply don't make money, but also importantly, I think parts of our customer portfolio. We all have these strategic accounts that we cover in cotton wool and say, we don't make money there, but they're important because. I think now is a really good time to ask those tough questions. And I think a crisis often makes those tough decisions much easier. And I think we need to really look at those very, very hard in the future and say, do we tolerate that anymore?
I can think of already, as you're saying that, I can think of so many people who talk about customers in that way as well. And as you say, I mean, particularly the customers maybe that you started with, or the customers that you feel you innovate with or have given you the insights.
And of course, and particularly salespeople, and I mean, it's inherent in the DNA, which is, I think, that this conditioning to the customer is always right. We must keep our customers happy, but we don't have to accept not making any money. I mean, this is a commercial relationship, and I think whenever I speak to my clients, we do the analysis very quickly and say, hey, you've got this 10% of customers which you make no money from, and there's a lot of yeah, they're great people and they're strategic and they were very important at the time and they opened doors for us, and that's fair. I think now is a good time to have another conversation with them about, okay, we love the relationship, we have to make money out of this.
Okay. Conscious of time, because it is flying on this altogether, but there's a couple of things I still want to ask. One, the title of this event is The New UK, and you are CEO of a company who has conversations with lots of CEOs of companies in the UK.
Yes.
What are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. I'm sat here just outside London. I speak to a lot of UK CEOs, and it obviously depends who you talk to, Deirdre. I mean, I talk to some people in the leisure industry and it's quite doom and gloomy. Others in the technology sector, for instance, where it's super positive. But I would say generally it's positive. I think there's a lot of relief, which is, for most businesses, it hasn't been the complete disaster that maybe people predicted 9 or 12 months ago. Equity and asset prices are high. People have worked out how to work in this kind of model now. But of course, there's a lot of uncertainty. I mean, one question I often ask CEOs when I speak to them at the moment is, if I'd asked you to write now a 3-year demand forecast, could you do it? And actually most are very honest and say, I don't think I could right now. A lot of what we know from the past, we have to tear up and throw away, and we have to think a lot more kind of blank paper thinking. And I think that's that innovation we've talked about. I expect, and I can feel already it coming, this wave of commercial creativity. Most CEOs are thinking about that, I would say, in a different way and with more urgency than they have in the past.
So Evolve UK takes on a new connotation with every conversation. Maybe before we wrap up, you mentioned at the beginning that you don't know Ireland, or you're not maybe as well known in Ireland yet, but you have worked in Ireland, and so tell us a bit about that. And again, you know, Enterprise Ireland champions SMEs. Tell us a bit about your work with SMEs.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll start with Ireland first. So yes, we have been working in Ireland for quite a while. So far, it's been a more reactive thing, and we want to make that a more proactive thing. But you know, we work for many great Irish businesses, CRH, Caller Island, Lions Tea. We've done the pricing on them, and actually, I'm very lucky personally. I love coming to Ireland. I've consulted several Irish businesses in sort of my focus area, which is more technology and media. So I've worked for Air, I've worked for TV3, Ampost, Paddy Power, Betfair. So I come to Ireland, but I'd love to come to Ireland more. And so we have big ambitions for that. So we will look to open an office in Dublin in the future. And we already have a senior advisor with boots on the ground in Ireland. I think he's already working with a number of EI clients, Phil Darby, a great guy with a long legacy of working with many businesses in Ireland. So we're building those footsteps, Deirdre, and we very much value this relationship with Enterprise Ireland too. We plan to make that more collaborative in the future. And then you mentioned SMEs. Well, I said at the very top, I mean, that's sort of in our DNA and heritage. And as a firm, you know, we really work with clients from every sector and all sizes. We're actually, I think a lot of people think pricing consultancy is a B2C thing. Actually, the majority of our clients are B2B. We do a lot of B2C work, but it's slightly majority B2B. And we work with a lot of SMEs. That's actually our biggest client base in the UK, actually, is the SME base. It's not all the FTSE 100s. And that's because I think the project economics of this kind of work makes sense regardless of your business size. I mean, as one example, last year, I had a client who, you know, at the smaller end of the scale, say about 10 million in the top line, 2 million of EBITDA, but still, we managed to increase prices by 20%. That doubled their EBITDA. So the payback was huge. And very, very fast. So we work with businesses of all sizes. So I hope that people reach out to us and not to worry that this isn't just a FTSE 100 thing. This is work that can pay back regardless of business size.
Great. And I think we have a slide that we just want to pull up because you mentioned there the collaboration, and together, as you say, Enterprise Ireland and Simon Kucher and Partners, we started a conversation. We might even start a movement in Ireland. You mentioned, you know, how Enterprise Ireland had been behind the adoption of lean and cost management principles. So maybe we'll be behind a revolution in adopting commercial excellence and strategic pricing. But we are collaborating together on a webinar called Strategic or Pricing Excellence, a Strategic Imperative for CEOs. It's on the 23rd of March. Do you want to add anything about that webinar before we conclude?
I mean, I won't take too much time. I think a lot is there it's in the title and in the words. But I think, as you said, Deirdre, this is I think it's a good opportunity to make 2021 a year of thinking about something different, which is okay, let's really think about top line growth. Let's think about pricing. We're really excited to work with you on it. You'll have me, Pete, and you see Phil there as well. So yeah, I would be super open to invite everyone to join that and just to listen in, so we can go. I mean, 20 minutes flies by so fast, doesn't it? There's a lot more we could talk about on this topic, so we'll have the opportunity to go much deeper on that webinar.
Great, look forward to it. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks so much, Deirdre. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks to both of you. Really interesting to hear some of the aspects there with Mark Milledge. Deirdre is going to be back with us just a little bit later. But they were talking about some of the strategies there. So let's go a little further with that for the next few minutes. We're going to be talking with a panel of CEOs that will be coming up. But I want to bring, and we'll hear their stories that I'm sure you'll find inspiring. But let's get to some of the strategies with CEOs as well, Irish CEOs, what the UK means to them, past, present, and future. Let's watch.
Flexco first expanded into the UK in the 80s, so our relationship with that country has now lasted 4 decades, and we found it to be an incredibly important partner for us. It's a great place to open doors as an early stage startup. It's also a great place to expand further internationally because there are such strong cultural and commercial links between Ireland and the UK.
Portwest has been exporting to the UK for many years, and today it is our largest market. Even after Brexit, the UK will remain a dynamic, vibrant market with many opportunities. Portwest plan to double sales in the UK over the next 5 years.
The UK was key to Combilift's success in the early years, and I'd strongly recommend to any early exporter to export into the UK market. It's a great way to establish your brand, which it makes it much easier for you to scale into other export markets in future.
If I had one piece of advice, it is to become an Irish-owned UK company rather than an Irish company with operations in the UK. And by that I mean hire local, experienced people on the ground in the regions you're working in.
So we're seeing a little bit of the CEOs there, what the UK means to them, past, present, and future. Just to give you a little taste there. But let us get into it in more depth with a number of CEOs for our next panel discussion. So I'm going to ask Deirdre McPartlin, our UK manager for Enterprise Ireland, to put camera and microphone back on. I apologise, I think my microphone was off a moment ago, so forgive me for that. Deirdre McPartlin, Enterprise Ireland, but also we want Conor McCarthy to put camera and microphone on, as well as Mick Guinea, Pat O'Connor, Patrick Buckley, and Lulu O'Sullivan. And I'm going to pass it over to Deirdre, who's going to talk about some of the strategies for Irish companies with her guests that are well versed in all of the above.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And we're just waiting for Mick Guinea, and he is with us, I think, just about now. But this part, hi Mick. So when I asked all of you guys to join us, you all immediately said yes. And I think part of that was because what we were saying this morning is inspiring and motivating all the business owners and management teams in Ireland. And you guys do that in spades. So I think if we start off by maybe just introducing, I'll ask each of you just to introduce yourselves, your companies, and what it means, what the UK means to your companies. So Mick, maybe if we start with you and EI Electronics, tell us about the company and what the UK means to you.
Yeah, Mick Kinney is my name, and I'm the founder and CEO of EI Electronics. UK is our biggest market. By far, it's 70% of our turnover. And right from the beginning, I suppose if I do go back very briefly to the beginning of the company, it has its origins at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution as it happened in Ireland, with the setting up of the first FDI companies in the 1960s in Shannon. General Electric set up EI Company, which stands for Emerald Isle, incidentally. And in 1974, GE began to manufacture a humble smoke alarm in EI. And then 1988 came along and GE decided that they no longer needed this subsidiary. I was the MD at the time, and I motivated really by trying to keep some jobs in Shannon at that time, but also a bit of vision that the smoke alarm, while there was no market in Europe for fire safety at the time, no regulation, I had a little vision that maybe at some stage it might happen. So on that basis, we negotiated a deal with GE, and the new company, EI Electronics, opened for business on the 3rd of March, 1988. Initially just doing subcontract electronics, but beginning to sell some smoke alarms in the UK retail market, because the UK awareness of smoke alarms happened. There was a fire in King's Cross Underground in 1987, and suddenly people became aware that smoke alarms were needed in the home as well as in underground stations. So initially we sold at retail in the places like Do It All, Focus, and so on. But then 1990 came along, and the UK building regulations came in strongly and regulated for smoke alarms in every home. So immediately, obviously, we saw this as a big potential market. We, I suppose, identified the electrical distribution channel as the channel to market. And so we appointed an individual who had come out of that industry to represent us in the UK. At the same time, we identified the social housing market, which is 5.5 million homes in the UK, as the end customer of our business. So that person that we set up at that time, his name was Ken Ainsworth. He set up a company called AICO, AICO, and he began to sell into that market. And his modus operandi was to sell or be a consultant, really, I suppose, into the social housing market and draw the business from that market back into electrical distribution where we put our products. So that was the basis of our business, and still is the modus operandi of what we do today. Social housing sector is our main focus, although we do sell obviously in the private sector as well. And electrical distribution is our channel to market. Now, since then, AICO has now become a subsidiary of EI Electronics, and we bought out that company in 2004, and it has grown substantially, and it's a dominant force in the UK market. It's now number 3 supplier into the electrical distribution channel in the UK. And in terms of sales, AICO is now turning over about 150 million sterling every year, and represents 70% of our business. So from the beginning, then UK was our target market and remains very much our market. Brexit did not interrupt any of that, and I was right through last year. I said that UK will remain our number 1 market, and still is, and it's our number 1 potential growth market as well. So that's
fascinating.
We've come.
A hidden champion in Ireland, to coin the terminology from the previous speaker, and what a success. Pat, if I move from Mick, who is the longest standing exporter to the UK on the panel, to yourself, who's the most recent, a little bit about Bray and your relationship with the UK.
Yeah, thank you very much, and inspiring to hear the story there about that company. I suppose we're on the other end of the scale. Like, we're an early stage technology company. Our name is Bray, and we create data-driven virtual reality simulation for high hazard environments. The types of companies we're working with are the likes of the Royal Air Force in the north of England, IAG in Heathrow Airport, and even the United Nations in Somalia. What we're doing is we're combining authentic virtual reality training environments with cutting edge data analytics and AI capability to measure, evaluate, and predict performance. Essentially is what we're doing. And we're doing that in industries that are what we call risky, remote, and rare. And I suppose one of those really key industries for us is offshore wind. And offshore wind for me is one of those ultimate risky, remote, and rare industries where it's high risk. Imagine your first day at work being sent 100 miles up the north coast of Scotland to climb a wind turbine that's the same height as the Eiffel Tower and moves 5 meters left to right. It's a scary first day at work. It's obviously very remote if you're working in a place like that. And in terms of rarity, it's a very rare environment, or it's very rare to be able to bring people to an offshore wind turbine to train. So we remove that riskiness, the remoteness, and the rarity by creating it in a virtual world. I guess one of the other important things to know about us as a company is that we've adopted what we call the triple bottom line. And I was very impressed to hear the two mayors of Liverpool and Manchester speak so passionately about the importance to green the economy in the UK. And obviously we're trying to do the same in Ireland. So triple bottom line company is one that not only focuses on profit, but also on people and on planet. And that might sound like nice words, but we've also adopted B Corporation Constitution, which means that I, as a company director, now have a legal obligation to not just consider profit, but also people and planet. The UK is very much our most important market. It's our largest market. And we've just hired our first 3 employees there in the northeast of England. So I guess for us, we're on the other end of the scale to your previous speaker. But it hasn't been scary. Opening an office and a UK entity actually has been very straightforward, and we've had great support from Enterprise Ireland and also from actually the UK Department of International Trade. That's us.
Great. Looking forward to digging in some more there. Lulu, tell us about your business.
So I run an e-commerce company based here in Dublin, and we have 2 brands. One is giftsdirect.com and the other is the Irish Store. So Giftsdirect delivers gifts all around the world, and really its target market is both corporate and consumer, and people are sending gifts honestly for whatever occasions and to friends, family here in Ireland and all over the world. So Giftsdirect has been trading with the UK really since we went online, which is probably over 20 years ago now, and we would do a fair bit with corporates actually, because I think a lot of corporates who have some kind of Irish either CEOs or heritage would like to send Irish kind of hampers or food baskets or that around the world. So, and then about 8 years ago, we set up a second brand because we realized a lot of our customers were coming really from Irish born people, and we were kind of limited by the number of people here in Ireland. So, we set up a second brand called the Irish Store, and it's targeted at Irish diaspora, all 80 million of them, and also Irish fans, you know, people who really love everything about Ireland and who want to connect to brand Ireland. So we started really mainly in the US, but obviously once you're online, you're selling anywhere and you'll take the orders from anywhere and deliver it to anywhere. But our main focus was in the US, and then this year we've decided really to extend that focus, you know, putting investment in a much bigger way into the UK and Canada.
Great. So looking forward to again hearing about starting a business now in the UK in just a moment. But if we move on, Patrick, if you maybe introduce yourself and the company and relationship to the UK.
Yeah, Patrick Buck is my name. Work with EPS. EPS, we're a UK and Ireland based group of companies now. We offer water, wastewater treatment and pumping solutions, both in the UK and Ireland. And then we've, over the last 10 years in particular, we've focused on some strategic projects globally. So we've been fortunate enough to get involved in some projects in the Philippines, North America, Grenada, very interesting one in Antarctica, some projects in Middle East and Africa as well. And in particular, over the last 10 years, we've been very fortunate, again, partnering with a lot of Irish companies in developing and supporting some multitude of data center projects across Europe, which has been very successful for us. We're only 52 years into our journey, you know, so it's a long time, 52 years, but if you have a wider perspective in terms of longevity as a business, 52 years is a very short time. But we're well established. We've over 550 employees now. 120 of those are based today in England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. You know, back in 2008, or just before middle of 2008, we had 100% of our workforce was based in the south of Ireland. So that's kind of the change for us. With 5 focused business areas. One is in the area of construction. Second is in service repair and maintenance. Third one is asset management, energy optimization and aftercare of the assets we build for our customers. We have a product distribution business, and we also have a manufacturing business, which is predominantly in the, you know, steel, mild steel, stainless steel, and the assemblies that we would make and install in our treatment plants. And we've 4 subsidiary companies now: DPS in Northern Ireland, EPS Water, which is based in the UK, Pedrella Distribution based in Birmingham, and our latest addition to the group this Tuesday, this week, announcing it later, I suppose I'm announcing it now as well, is Ferrier Pumps in Scotland. Our customers are everywhere from homeowners to the agri sector, in all of the various utilities and power and water, everything in industrial, from food and bev, pharma, biotech, microelectronics, you know, right across the board. And then commercial, it's everything from leisure, office, retail space, you know, SMEs, healthcare, and the merchants across Ireland and UK. So located now in 11 locations. So we've had our 4 in the south of Ireland. We've Bangor, just west of or east of Belfast. We've Alton, Thetford, Lichfield, just north of Birmingham. And just this week now, Aberdeen, Glasgow, and Edinburgh have been added to the base, which gives us that, as Julie Cinnamon raised earlier, that closeness to customers and regional presence. And we've had some partner offices as well. We'd one there in the Soapworks in Manchester with one of our partners over the last 6 years, MWH Treatment, which was an office for us. And just very briefly, I think, as part of my introduction, you know, when Brexit happened and the referendum vote occurred, I remember exactly where I was. It has changed very little for us, you know, since people still need to turn on their taps and they still expect the high quality water to drink, and they still flush toilets. So as long as that occurs, there's business for EPS. We just need to make sure we innovate and steer our way through the various changes that our customers have. And whether the United Kingdom is outside of the EU or inside of the EU, now that they're outside, they're not going to be making decisions to pollute their rivers and their waterways and their lakes, or to have less focus on water quality and technology. If anything, the water companies that we work for, they will continue to lead the way across Europe, as they have been doing in innovative technologies, and in particular around carbon net zero 2030 and 2040. And that for us is very encouraging, because it means there will be continued investment in the sector, and we'll just make sure we play our part in that. So for us, the distinction around export, I think we've moved forward as a business in the last 5 years in particular. We no longer consider the United Kingdom an export market for us. It's our home. It is now our domestic market, and it gives us a platform to grow and export from there, either on the back of UK relationships and you know, British Water and UK trade and investment focus for various trade missions, or through the support of Enterprise Ireland.
Great, and fascinating to hear you describe the business as a UK and Irish business, but congratulations on the most recent acquisition as well. Well done. And Conor, if we move on to you, by no means last, and maybe I saved you because a man who founds a business in a recession and then goes on to do more in a COVID pandemic. If anyone can inspire, it's you. So a little bit, Conor, about Dublin Aerospace.
Maybe I'm certifiable. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, well, Dublin Aerospace, we're in the aviation MRO, maintenance, repair and overhaul business, which is basically an aviation services business. And as you might guess, our clients are the major airlines and leasing companies and aircraft owners, not just in Ireland, but all around the world. So very much an international business, started here in Dublin. Seem to like recessions. They provide opportunities for us. So our last crisis was when we started the business, was in 2009. We started the business here in the wake of the SR Technics shutdown and closure, and we had 6 people starting the business in September that year. And today we have almost 480 people in business, and we are profitable since year 1. We turn over about 50 million euros a year. We're about to open 2 new major facilities. We've just opened Exeter in the southwest of the UK, where we bought out the former facilities of Flybe Maintenance, and we aim to have 250 people there in about 5 years' time. And we're also building a new facility in Ashbourne, County Meath, to overhaul landing gear, which is a hugely successful business for us. And in that business, we compete with all the major economies, the US, China, Southeast Asia, and we have business from all of those continents as well. We compete very successfully, not just in service, but also on price and delivery, with some pretty challenging economies like China, for example. So we're pretty excited about the future. We're very confident. As I say, we've built our business up almost 500 people in 11 years, and we expect to be hitting about 800 people by 2025. I should say we started our business with great support from Enterprise Ireland. We got a significant support in the form of preference shareholding. And in the middle of 2020, the worst crisis for aviation ever, and I'm in the business 42 years, so it definitely is number 1 up there in terms of crisis levels. We paid back our last money to Enterprise Ireland, complete with the interest payment. And in that 10-year period, we had contributed 10 times the amount we got from Enterprise Ireland to the Irish economy in form of taxes and rates, etc. So we've very good partnership with Enterprise Ireland, great respect for the organisation, and we've managed to work very well with it across the world. And we make great use of not just EI, but also the Irish consulate in any country we work. And I'd encourage anybody listening in to remember that there's an absolutely fantastic body of professionals in the Irish, let's say, consulate services and Enterprise Ireland IDA services, who will do everything they can to help you in new markets. And it's well worth talking to them before you go into any new market. And they have avenues and doors that you just wouldn't dream of, and so well worth using. So just to, I suppose, finish off then, as I say, we've been profitable since our first year in what is notably a very difficult market, and we even made profits in 2020. And one of the things we like boasting about is that profitability, because we give 10% of it to our staff every quarter. I think we are a people business. We rely on individual performance contributing to a team effort, and we tie our people into that performance by making sure they benefit from it each quarter. So it's relevant, it's recent, but it also encourages them to act like owners. And the reason we have expanded in the UK is our search for talent, frankly, and our search for opportunities. It's not so much for the domestic market, which is very attractive, but it's the search for talent and the ability to take that talent and give it some meaningful work.
Thanks for that, Conor. And by God, did that investment pay off in terms of, as you say, from Enterprise Ireland at the outset. But no doubt, people saw the spark and determination in you and your management team. And you refer to people, and others have, and you're all in our chats previously, you're such people-oriented businesses, and you complement the teams behind you as well. So I should just give you all credit for that as well. But maybe, Mick, if I go back to you, can you remind us your market share in the UK? I think you said you were, ACO is one of the top 3 companies.
Yeah, Deirdre, I suppose I omitted at the beginning just to give the dimensions of the company overall. We have a turnover now of 270 million euros. ACO is one subsidiary. That's the UK is our biggest market, but we also have subsidiaries in France, Germany, USA, and Poland. All the manufacturing is done in Shannon, and we've 960 people in Shannon, and we've another 120 then in the sales marketing subsidiaries around the world. So we'll be the biggest employer in this region, you know, one of the biggest indigenous electronics companies. But back to your question, Deirdre. Yeah, we dominate that market. We're number 3 supplier into electrical distribution, and our focused market is the social housing, and we would have 80% plus market share of that. But our products are the go-to products of all installers in the UK. So our work in the social housing extends then obviously into the private sector as well. And you won't meet any installer in the UK who doesn't prefer the EI smoke alarm as the #1 install.
I mean, it's a phenomenal story, Mick, about dominating a niche. I think if anybody wants to understand how to go about it, they should look to you. But how did you achieve that kind of scale in the UK?
Well, from the beginning, and I think it was mentioned by somebody, we had a presence from the beginning. We set up this guy to open up the electrical distribution market for us, and then we set up the company around him in the UK. So we had a presence. We implied to get the market, we had to go. It's effectively a shoe leather job, going door to door in the social housing market to get the product specified, and through that then get it pulled back into the electrical distribution for sale. It's been focused, I suppose, and the quality, service, and innovation is our strapline, and I mean every one of them. Irish companies in the UK, I know when we started off, didn't have a great name for service, and I know we got complimented from the beginning and that we were very unusual, that we actually delivered when we said we would deliver. The second one is quality. In our business, quality is absolutely essential. It's a life safety business, and we're paranoid about quality. And we've an impeccable record on quality. So quality and service, you know, that they're the blocks of our success. And then the third one is innovation. Our R&D is based here. When we went into the business, we would have been competing against mainly US multinationals, big conglomerates, and our advantage over them is that we were agile and fast on our feet. And so much so that in the last 30 years, all innovations in this particular industry have been innovated. You know, EI was first into the market, every one of them. And I suppose we do that by being very close to the market, and UK is a very good example, I suppose, and our product development is driven by a combination of what feedback from the market and also the innovation of our engineers here in Shannon, and we work, you know, very closely together in doing that. And you know, I always say business is very easy if you keep the quality, keep your service, and you have to be innovating. You need a stream of new products coming along the whole time. And back to your consultant's point on pricing, I think maybe I knew that instinctively about, but we got that right from the beginning. We've always priced our products high. We deliver quality and service. So when we do go looking for a price increase, our customers generally accept it because they get good value for what we do. And from that point of view, Brexit never scared us. Even if there had been a tariff, we reckon we could have overcome that tariff with pricing in that. So pricing is very essential, and it, you know, as consultants, it drops right to the bottom line. and we're very tough on pricing, and it has paid off.
And you've a phenomenal team, as you mentioned, in Ireland on the R&D side, and in the UK in ACO, 70 people on the ground feeding you across every region, all of that insights for you to drive that product development. But what are your growth ambitions in the UK? You've 80% market share. Are you done?
I suppose our ambition is, we're very much now in the era of the connected home, and our fundamental technology is sensors. You know, we had smoke sensors, we had heat sensors, carbon monoxide sensors, which are our alarms today. But we also have, we're driving now into temperature, humidity, carbon dioxide sensors, but air quality and the home environment, especially in the social housing market, where the social landlords are very caring of their tenants, and I think this is an area where fuel poverty is very big, and they want more information about their housing stock. So we're in the course of doing that for them. We are now introducing temperature, humidity, and carbon dioxide sensors, as well as smoke and CO. And recently we've acquired a UK startup company called HomeLink. It's in Bristol, and what they're bringing to us is the artificial intelligence and the data manipulation capability. So we can extract the data from the homes and then present it in a form through cloud technology to the social landlord, giving them key information about the quality of the home for their tenant and so on, and also giving them real asset management capability, because in, say, Liverpool or Manchester, you'd have housing stocks of maybe 50, 60,000, and keeping that kind of an asset in good condition and also taking care of the tenants. So I suppose in summary, we're going to exploit the fact that we're so well got in the social housing market. They want to take other products from us, and we see the connected home and sensors in the home now as that growth area. And so we're very optimistic about continued growth in the UK market.
And no doubt that you'll be successful given the track record. Pat, again, you know, it's just that contrast between the experience and the new. You described the UK as your single most important market, regardless of Brexit. Why?
Thanks, Deirdre. Yeah, we are at the other end of the scale. And I suppose just to say, really inspiring to hear Conor McCarthy there talking about paying back Enterprise Ireland's investment at 10x. Like, that's something that we would aim to do as well. Because I mean, Enterprise Ireland supports have been central to us being able to develop our product through the HPSU. And then you probably know, Deirdre, your own team in the UK have been, in particularly, I suppose, the offshore wind team with Derek Otter. Like, they introduced us to the offshore wind opportunities, something we would never have thought about ourselves. So couldn't agree more. EI supports are what are enabling this, and hopefully we can pay that back in spades. But I suppose in general terms, like, the UK is our #1 market, and it is for most Irish companies to export to. It's the 6th biggest economy in the world. It is a population of almost 70 million, and it's the closest to us in terms of kind of business practices and norms. In terms of offshore wind, people may not know this, but it is the #1 biggest offshore wind market in the world. And then some of our customers, the likes of the Royal Air Force or IAG and Heathrow Airport, everyone knows those globally. Like, these are globally recognized brands and organizations. So it makes sense that we would try to work with them in our nearest neighbor. So I guess what I would sum it up as is, it's not like we've come up with some genius idea that to focus on the UK. It's a no-brainer. Like, if you're trying to focus, if you're trying to export from Ireland, focusing on the UK makes a lot of sense as far as we're concerned. I suppose what might raise eyebrows from some people is that we chose to focus our UK expansion on the northeast of England. So the north of England in general, the Northern Powerhouse, and the northeast is where we focused. And the reason we did that is because it is the UK's cluster for immersive technology. So when the Oculus on my Facebook launched their groundbreaking Oculus Quest headset, there was 14 titles released, 4 of those 14 were made in Newcastle or Gateshead, which was more than was made in California. So that's where we're finding talent. There's a talent density there. They're producing 5,000 computer science graduates every year from some great universities. You have the National Innovation Centre for Data in Newcastle, and then, which is also key, it's the hub, the operations and maintenance hub for the Dogger Bank, which is the biggest single offshore wind farm in the world. So why wouldn't you want to be based there and close to that? And I guess when Brexit was coming, we didn't really know what else to do because we didn't know what way it was going to go. But we knew it made sense. Stay close to your customers, maintain your relationships, and keep doing the right thing. So opening a UK entity and a UK office made sense to us. And we opened it in the northeast of England. We opened our office there last October. And since October, we've now created 3 full-time jobs in the UK, high quality, well-paid technology jobs. So that in turn, you know, that makes us valuable, not just to Enterprise Ireland as an export company, but also locally. We now are seen as a local company. And I think that's vital. So that makes it a bit of a no-brainer, right? And then I suppose for us at the other end of the scale to EI Electronics, we're probably now looking at an investment round coming up down the track. And to date, we've raised 1.2 million in a seed round with Enterprise Ireland supports and some private Irish investors. But I think, like, if you look at the UK, it is one of the biggest financial markets in the world. I think the London Stock Exchange is the second biggest in the world after New York. And you have these large tax incentivized funds like the EIS, which are at the scale because the population base is at the scale that they can really be attractive for companies like us. And companies like us are very attractive to those funds and their investors because of our high growth potential, given that with COVID, everyone's looking for remote enabling technologies. And great to hear Mick talking about sensors and data. So like we're providing remote enabling technologies. We have a product that is a combination of VR, IoT, and AI in the cloud. So they're very attractive to UK-based investors. And I don't know, but I would probably guess that our next investment round will at least include a UK institutional investor and hopefully EI as well.
And Pat, before we move on, you know, will that investment in the UK, will it take away from the growth of the Irish business? The growth in Ireland?
Absolutely not. Like, these are completely intertwined. So like, actually on the video you played before you moved to this panel, one of the speakers gave a piece of advice about an Irish, set up an Irish owned UK company rather than simply an Irish company operating in the UK. I think Patrick Buckley on the panel made a similar point about treating the UK's domestic market. And I'd certainly echo that. But the benefits are two ways. So like if we're winning contracts in the UK and taking on investment, that is ultimately solving UK problems and solving problems for UK customers. But that experience and technology can be brought back to Ireland so that we can do the same here. So if the UK is the biggest offshore wind market in the world and we can solve problems for them, it only makes sense that that technology can come back to Ireland and solve problems here and help grow our indigenous offshore wind market and in turn create jobs. So I think paradoxically, maybe Brexit has created opportunities for companies like us because there's a big drive in the UK for finding innovative new technology products, particularly around the technologies that we're involved in, which is AI, virtual reality, cloud, IoT and robotics. And I would say in particular in the Northern Powerhouse, I get the impression they're trying to differentiate on that technology base. So they need companies like us who are bringing skills and experience and talent density from Ireland, who have got that because of our education system and because of all of the foreign direct investment over the last number of decades. So that's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. Like we've recently won R&D funding from the UK government as well as the Offshore Wind Global Partnership. That's directly creating UK jobs, but it's also directly creating Irish jobs and IP. So for me, it's not an either or. This is completely symbiotic. I think if we win, that will.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Lulu, if I move on to you, because what you did was, what makes you different, I suppose, from the other guys is you're completely online without a presence in site, and you are consumer focused. So, but again, you said now is the time for you to come into the UK. Brexit isn't just deterring you. Again, can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, well, I suppose you know, with the Irish Store brand, when we started 8 years ago, we focused on the US because it seemed to us, you know, and we all know Americans are very passionate about Ireland, so it seemed the natural fit. And really, we've spent the last, you know, certainly 6 years really learning and understanding what works and what doesn't work from both a product and a marketing point of view. So thankfully, sales are still going very strong and growing really well over in the US. But really, it was time to kind of go, you know what, we can easily roll this out to different markets in a bigger way than we are at the moment. You know, not only focus our marketing efforts on the US, and you know, as it's been said, 1 in 6 Irish have Irish heritage. You know, so there is a love for Ireland and all things Irish in the UK. So it was a very natural next step, really, in our kind of evolving that brand.
But particularly, and I have to harp on it because everybody is asking me, parcel business, Brexit, is this not causing chaos and hassle for you at the moment?
Actually, much less than I thought it was going to. So no, you know, I'm not going to say every single parcel is getting through, but certainly, oh gosh, well over 98% of them are, you know. So you know, there can be a little bit of slowness, but again, nothing as much as I thought the problems might be. So, you know, I firmly believe that, you know, any challenges that are there at the moment, you know, they'll be overcome. You know, all of us, you know, between you know, the customs people, EI, us, entrepreneurs, we'll all figure a way through it, you know. So it's only a matter of, you know, I would hope short-term challenges that we'll get through, and it certainly wouldn't have made us think twice about the UK in any way.
And do you think the fact that you had started in the US and you were familiar with paperwork, it just didn't daunt you? You say that's part of trading.
Yeah, just, you know, every market's going to have a different nuance to it, you know, and you just really figure out what that is, you know, and you know, as I say, the GivsDirect brand anyway sends lots of stuff to the UK, so it's very much we need to figure it out one way or the other, you know, because it's an important market for us in the UK, you know. So yeah, it's a matter of adapting your software systems, your website, you know, working with your carriers, whatever you need to do to make sure that the customer experience doesn't in any way get affected. So, you know, I think what Mick said earlier, you know, really is all about quality and service, you know. So if you keep that at your center, and when you're up against these challenges, you just have to figure a way to make sure that you don't kind of, you know, you don't slip up in any of those two things.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing from each of you is it's just that, you know, nothing is a problem. It's about tackling it. Problems come, you knock them off, and you focus on the prize. Patrick, you gave us a great insight there into building up the company and through acquisition and so on. But you were present in the UK pre-referendum. Do you see the market now? And you've just made an acquisition. I don't even know how I'm asking you this, but do you see the market in terms of risk or opportunity? Were you ever tempted to diversify beyond the UK?
No, look, there's huge opportunity there. There's risk everywhere. There's a risk outside my front door. We've risk in Ireland. You'll have risk in the UK. It's just about how you manage it and prepare for it. Like for us, when the vote occurred, and we were present in the UK market, and you know, we had a slow start. You know, we learned. You know, we'd one acquisition that wasn't really successful for us and cost us not so much money, but more time and effort and management focus, which took our focus off elsewhere in the earlier days. But like Tom Brady, you know, he had a good weekend last weekend, and he was famous for saying at one particular semi-final in one of his matches, you know, I didn't come this far to only come this far. We have more to go. It's the very same for EPS. You know, we have loads more to go. We are, despite being, you know, in Ireland, we're considered a very large business in our sector. We've done quite very well in the UK in the last decade, but we're still a very small fish in a huge pond. Just one sector that we're involved in, which is the water utility sector. The investment alone over the next 5-6 years is in, you know, 50-60 billion. In Scotland, it's in the billions. In Northern Ireland, it's in the billions. And we've just a small touch of that yet. So we've loads more opportunity in terms of how we'll grow the business. And as I said, just as an example, we've done some projects in the Middle East, but leveraging out of the UK now for us, UK government have provided loan funding to Iraq. So now we have companies who've won multi-million-dollar businesses and projects in Iraq, but part of the conditions of the UK funding from the British government is that the 30% of the equipment that's procured for that project in Iraq must come from British SMEs. So EPS Water UK is our British SME. So that's an opportunity for that business. Likewise, with Enterprise Ireland, we've supports for, you know, the inter-exchange between UK and Ireland. So there's loads of opportunity for us. You know, I've actually received a copy of, and Mark will be delighted for the plug, Hidden Champions, Herman Simon's book, just before Christmas. And I don't read many books, but I've read that one. And it talks a lot about, you know, growth. And what are the success stories of Hidden Champions? And it's the takeaway for me very briefly is growth, which is regional expansion and innovation and market leadership. You know, and we might be considered a market leader in Ireland at the moment in some of our sectors. We're not in the United Kingdom, we're not in Scotland, we're not in England or Wales or Ireland. We are just one of the players. We provide a good service, good quality product. We have a great team. You know, we've had people that have, my own brother Ty immigrated from Kildare to live in Birmingham with his wife. He's his family there now. Sean Stevens, who runs our Water UK business, had lived in Ireland for 10 years and relocated back to the south of England near his home. And then we've loads of other people that have, you know, that work in the teams and work in the businesses that we've bought into and built up. So very much locally focused and locally based. And just getting back to your question, you'll always have risk because we're involved in projects, and in project delivery, there's always risk. You know, our products businesses, there's less risk. It's more shifting boxes and distribution and logistics, and a lot about pricing and pricing strategy. But certainly on the construction side, there's inherent risk there, but it's the game we're in, and you have to manage that risk. And obviously there's projects we've walked away from. There's even some customers we've stopped dealing with because the price point for the risk just didn't make sense. You know, so we've had to make decisions there, in particular over the last 8 or 9 years, you know, largely focused around some of the learnings from the Leadership for Growth course that we were involved in and supported with Enterprise Ireland. So we've had to be patient. You know, we've had a tough start. We've made plenty of mistakes. We've had some great wins. Lots of stuff going on that I've been really proud of that people have achieved and we've done together. But I truly believe that the next 10 years for us in the United Kingdom can be transformational for our business and for the team and for the people that run the business for us. But we just need to keep it simple, keep our feet on the ground, you know, and continue to do the things we do well and just do them better and faster and safer. And if we do that and stay consistent, we won't have any worries. We will grow our business. It just takes time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Inspirational, and I'm getting told off by Nuala in the background here because I'm just getting so engrossed in all of your chats. But there's no way I'm going to move on, Conor, without coming back to you. And I can see most of the audience is still with us, but conscious of time. Conor, you gave some other perspectives as well of why now, and with that Brexit perspective on how you see the UK evolving and why now is a good time to be in the market.
Okay, so thanks for that question. So we established Exeter Aerospace in September of 2020. Again, a lot of people, you know, seriously considering our sanity in doing it in the middle of that aviation crisis, which continues today. But our whole search is for talent, actually. So our market's completely export driven. The work we do here in Dublin You know, I'm looking out in the hangar at the moment. We the Saudia aircraft delivered from a 12-year overhaul. We've Air Malta, we have a French airline, we have Aer Lingus, we have a UK airline, Jet2, big customer of ours. But only about 25% of our revenues come from the UK. But our search brought us to the UK, having looked in countries like France, Spain, Netherlands, Slovenia for the right opportunity over the last 4 or 5 years. And there's a number of reasons for that. The first one is opportunity, that very word. The UK MRO business has been pretty much decimated over the last 6 years. We've seen the likes of Monarch close, Thomas Cook close, Airbus recently closed its wing factory for the A380 in Northern Wales. So there's a huge amount of aviation talent around, and it hadn't an opportunity to find somewhere to work. And in particular, in Exeter, Flybe, which went into liquidation earlier this year, or administration, closed its maintenance centre. So we saw an opportunity here to do two things. One is to grab talent. People think that the barriers to entry in aviation maintenance are the big hangars and the equipment and so on. But actually, that's a relatively small barrier, although an expensive one. The real barrier is it takes about 8 years to take a young person and bring them through an apprenticeship and through to becoming a qualified, capable aircraft engineer. So when I mentioned we have almost 500 people employed, about 100 of those are in training at any one time. We're the largest training organisation for aircraft apprentices in Ireland, and we have been for the last 7 years, and we continue to invest in that heavily. And we get support there from Solis and the ETBs, which do a hugely good job in terms of supporting the apprenticeships in Ireland, which have, in the last year particularly, possibly 2 years, we've seen a huge resurgence here, which is great to see it because it's really important. The talent that comes through apprenticeships is immense, and we put too much store on third level qualifications and not enough on vocational training. And really that vocational training that an apprenticeship gives is huge. So in parallel with that, the UK is in a similar position. So when the opportunity came up in Exeter, we grabbed it. There's a complementary product. So we do 737 and A320 family aircraft here in Dublin. In the UK, we're going to do regional jets and turboprops. So there's nice complementarity. The other factor that we bore in mind was the very similar legal and employment systems. So you can actually start off your conversation without assuming and assume everything, whereas in the likes of Slovenia or even the Netherlands, there's different employment laws, there's different languages, different nuances, and that can actually cause some real challenges in business as you try to develop. And finally, I would mention one big thing, which is sterling. We know that now that the UK is independent of the EU, one of the big weapons they have in the Chancellor's drawer is the power of the currency and the exchange rate. So our concern here was if things happen in sterling land that we're not part of, then competitors of ours could actually get a 10% price gap very quickly, just simply because of weaker sterling. And I think most of us here feel that as exports are becoming more and more important to the UK, they will use sterling to their benefit in that regard. So we wanted to be part of that equation. So our next step was naturally to establish Exeter Aerospace. Some very good points that I totally agree with there. We've got to establish ownership in the UK. So while we own that business, our local management team are all locals. We have nobody from Dublin there. I'll hold my hand up and say I haven't even visited the facility because it all happened in the second half of last year. So I couldn't get to the UK because of the travel quarantine. And yet we've established a really successful business. We've got our licenses from the UK CAA. We're the first MRO to ever get a license in the UK from EASA under the new Brexit regulations, which means we can sell into Europe. We can sell obviously in the UK, but we have a great team there who are very much the owners, and we've given them their own brand. So we use the same brand shape and colour lines as we do here in Dublin, but it's called Exeter Aerospace. And our hope is that they can establish their own personality in that business, that they can develop that business, and that it can be more successful than here. I mean, that's the true success, if they have that level of ownership and they can deliver that. So for us, you know, 250 people within the next 5 years, we don't see that as being too ambitious. We've always beaten our job targets, so we'd hope we'll do it here as well. The facility is more than big enough to accommodate 350 people. So we've bought in big, we've developed it with a view to the future, and we just have used whatever learnings and business model that we have here in Dublin, but we now want them to Exeterize it and do it there. And we won't stop there. We might well start something up in the north of England. We looked very closely in Manchester last year, when Thomas Cook closed. The last aircraft overhaul hangar in the north of the UK was available, and you know, that's still available, and it's something that we are considering. But Exeter were just quicker to the mark. The airport company were quicker, and we ended up getting a deal done very quickly with the administrators to Flybe. So that's where we're at.
So I could talk to you all day, but you guys are busy people. The comments that are coming in are phenomenal from the audience. They are truly inspired by you and really grateful for a motivational boost and kick this morning. There's lots of questions coming in, which I will have to figure out how we help address them. But if I can borrow the phrase from Pat, what I'm really hearing from you is the importance of that, you know, Ireland's success is based on the UK success, which fuels further success and growth in Ireland. So on that note, thank you to you all. And we'll just use the last minutes just to wrap up. But the very best of luck with your businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was so interesting. Thanks to all of you, to Deirdre McPartlin moderating that conversation, also Conor McCarthy, Mick Guinea, Pat O'Connor, Patrick Buckley, and Lulu O'Sullivan. You can all turn your mics and your cameras off as well. Checking, I've got both of mine on. Yes, I do. Okay, let us move on. So you've met Deirdre, you've met Marina, you've met Julie, but let's take a moment to meet some more of the team that will be able to help you answer your questions, but also perhaps if you're getting inspired to help make those ambitions become a reality. So I want to play now a video where you'll meet the rest of the Enterprise Ireland team. So there you have it, some of the team. I've been working with them over the past few weeks in advance of this event, and they are a fantastic team, very open to communicating. Let me bring one of them back, Deirdre McPartlin from Enterprise Ireland. Great to have you back with us. I can tell how much you enjoyed that last panel, and their stories were inspiring. And I feel, as we've gone through today, we're kind of been laying out that groundwork and then getting into those individual stories and kind of how it plays out for them between the Ireland and the UK with some of the opportunities or how they've navigated challenges as well. But I think a lot of people will want to know, okay, what are the next steps? What do they need to be thinking about? For example, if it comes to global ambition and growing ambition and within the UK, talk us through what you think they should be thinking about.
So, Nuala, I think exactly as you said, you know, people now are looking at how the UK is evolving and changing, and essentially what we've done, because I could keep us here for 2 weeks talking about it. But what we've done is we've in a campaign called Evolve UK. We've already got about 50 pieces of content, and people can see there, they can look at it. It's guides, reports, webinars. It's beyond what you get from our wonderful market research centre, because it's developed by the team in the UK together with their network of industry experts. So it's giving access to that information, and it starts a dialogue or continues a dialogue with our clients. And upcoming events can be found on our LinkedIn page, our Enterprise Ireland UK. If we move on to just the next slide as well, this gives a flavour. It's not everything that's happening, but for example, on the 25th of February, we have a webinar dedicated to the UK CA mark, which replaces the CE mark from the 1st of January next year. We're going to have a guide on establishing a presence in the UK, because so many have said how important that is. And we have other reports, but if you look on the right as well, some of the sector events, that theme of climate action weaving its way down through that. And then finally, other ways that we support, if I move on to our final slide. The Minister mentioned today, we have launched a new grant called the Evolve Strategic Planning Grant that provides up to €5,000 for companies to invest in how they need to adapt and understand how they need to adapt to this new and evolving market. It might be on the supply side, it might be on certification, it might be on researching the market. And then the customs challenges haven't gone away. The Ready for Customs grant still exists, and all of our Brexit supports are there on the prepareforbrexit.com. And if I just ask for the final slide, what this really does is, I suppose, set it out in brief. And at the very end there's a wonderful lady, Gillian Butler's email address, who's been the volunteer for all questions. I think we'll be taking a feed of questions which have come through, and we'll aim to work through that. We'll be sending out a follow-up email as well. Our Brexit unit may have 1 or 2 questions to add to that as well of participants, and we'll seek to respond. And Nuala, from my side, apologies to you for probably giving you a journalist's nightmare of dragging this on. Dragging is the wrong word, but making it longer than anticipated. But I really thank you for your expert hosting, and I'd like to thank all of our participants and our wonderful guests, and everybody who's been involved today in making this event happen.
Absolutely, Deirdre. Thank you so much. The UK manager for Enterprise Ireland, and there will be an on-demand recording of this event available in the coming days that Enterprise Ireland will be in touch about. So if you missed something, you want to go back, you want to check, you want to follow up on something, it will be there. And also Enterprise Ireland will be in touch, and they mentioned the questions that came in, so we'll get some of those answers as well. So upwards and onwards. Let us hope 2021 turns out to be a fantastic and productive year for you. I hope you found it inspiring over the past couple of hours. It's been great to be with you, to be your host, and stay in touch with Enterprise Ireland, and they'll help you out on your growth ambition. Bye from us for now. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.